So you've got your GPU and your server, and now you want to install CUDA and cuDNN? Yeah, we can do that. This video has an accompanying webpage. You'll find the link in the description area. Be sure to read the summary and to pull the pre-install downloads prior to beginning. As far as your physical setup, you're going to need a workstation. In this case, I'm using Windows 10. You'll need your server with your GPU installed. They both need to be connected to a router, and you need to have internet connectivity for downloads and updates. Software for today's install, we're going to be using Rufus to create your ISO image on your flash drive. We'll be using PuTTY to SSH into your server, and we'll be using WinSCP to transfer files from your workstation up into the server. As it's unlikely your motherboard will be identical to mine, I'm not going to video the setup of the BIOS. I am going to mention these 3 points. Make sure your USB is set up as your primary boot device. Make sure your install media is set up as your secondary boot device. And most importantly, under advanced PCI settings, you want to be looking for something that's approximately worded above 4G decoding. And this basically enables 64-bit capable devices, aka your GPU, to be decoded above the 4G address space. If you do not have this option, if your motherboard doesn't support it, this install will fail. Once you've got all your files downloaded, it's time to open Rufus. Inside Rufus, we're going to select the USB drive we're going to write to. In this case, I'm using an 8 gig drive. You need a minimum 4 gig drive. We're going to select the ISO image that we're going to use. In this case, it's 18.04.5. Do not tweak these settings. You can leave them at default. When you click Start for the first time, you're going to be prompted to download a couple of files. Click Yes. The files will automatically download. They're both small, and this is what they'll look like after you've got them. You don't need to do anything with them. Rufus finds them automatically and uses them. Next, we're going to click Start. We're going to write in ISO image mode. We're going to get a warning that says we're about to destroy anything that's on the USB drive. Click OK to that. And off we go. I'm going to pause this video until we are finished installing. Once Rufus is finished, you'll get a confirmation ready at the bottom of the screen here, and you're all set. We can close it, we can eject the USB drive, and we can take it over to our server. All right, I screen captured my install because my server has a loud fan on the back of it to keep that GPU cool. And I'm going to begin now. So USB inserted, power button on. Here we go. Tap the space bar to let it know there's a human on board. Select English. We're going to go with the default install Ubuntu server. It's going to unpack a few things here. Watch the timer on the bottom. It's going to keep actual time for you as I go through the install. I may pause the recording to skip through the dull bits, but you should see everything and have a good idea of what your time frame should be by watching this. Select our default English. It says there's an installer update available. I skipped that. We don't need to go through that. Again, we're going to select English, default entry. Here you'll notice that my server is getting an IP address from the router using DHCP. If we're production install, of course, we'd hard set that. For this lab install, DHCP is fine. No proxy address required. I'm going to keep the default mirror address. For this install, I'm using a 480 gig PN-wide SSD. I'm going to use the whole thing for this install. It's far more than I require. The install itself, when we're complete with cuDNN and the drivers, is only going to be about 40 gig. So leave yourself some room if you're going to add additional components or transfer some files over. But it's going to carve out about 200 200 gig, and I'll use that for this install. You can see the 200 gig right here. We're going to continue, which will destroy anything that's on your drive. Give yourself, put in your own name, and put in your server name, user ID. This is your admin user ID, by the way. I'll refer to it in the instructions. Put in your password twice. And done. We are going to install OpenSSH server. We are not going to install any of the other components that we could at this point. Just click done. And away we go. Okay, this part's not very interesting. I'm going to pause it and I'll turn it back on when we're at some points that we're doing something. Our screen's about to change at this point. On the bottom, it's going to offer us, it's going to let us know that it's installing updates and security patches. Go ahead and let it do this. Don't cancel out of this. Our green bar on the bottom is about to change to reboot. As it does, we'll go ahead and select reboot. I like to give it about 10-15 seconds before I remove the USB drive. Here it is coming back up. At the top of the screen, there's some hash keys, which I'm not going to share with you, SSH keys. And this appears like it hangs at this point, but it doesn't. Just hit enter or hit the space bar, and it'll give you a login. And you'll want to go ahead and log in for the first time. Test out your admin account. And there we've got a successful login. We already have established that we're connecting to your router because it gave us an IP address through DHCP. If you want to give that another test, go ahead and ping your router. And that's a good way to establish the fact that you'll be able to connect to this server using SSH. So we finished our Ubuntu install and we're back at our workstation. I've opened up PuTTY, and when I connect, on the left-hand screen, this is a screen you should see. I'm going to log in as my admin user. And we're off. The right-hand side of the screen, I've got the web page that's associated with this install. We've already been through the summary. Pre-install downloads, you should have already done. Configuring BIOS and beginning the install, we've already completed this section. Now we're going to verify the server status. I like all these commands when I'm first setting up a new piece of equipment. I'm really just going to go over 3 right now. I'm just going to show you that we can click on the little clipboard icon once. It's going to highlight the text in the box in the window. I'm going to right click, paste that into my server. And I get an idea of what I think is installed. I can verify is actually installed. So I've been through memory. I like to take a look at the file system. Make sure we've got what we think we had when we set that up. And finally, let's double check that we have our NVIDIA card on board. And I've got both a display controller and the GPU installed here. They're both NVIDIA, so they both show up. But this top one's the one we're interested in, obviously. All right. So pre-installing and updating and file transfers. Okay, let's first update our system. I'm going to run a simple apt-get update. apt-get upgrade. And we'll do a reboot. Do not skip these reboots. You will wind up chasing your tail on problems that don't exist if you do. All right, the server's back up. If you right-click on the top bar of your PuTTY session, you can click the Restart Session selection, and you'll jump right back into where you left off. Okay, we're going to install Linux headers after we log in. Great, so we've confirmed we're at 18.04.5 LTS. uname-r, verify again. We're going to install GCC. Verify we just installed what we thought we installed, 7.5.0. Make sure we get our version of LDD as well. So we expected 2.27, and we did this earlier with when we first checked out the server, but we'll do it again. Grep our NVIDIA, make sure our GPU is still registering. Okay. At this moment, we're going to WinSCP the files up to our server. So switch over to our WinSCP window here. I'm going to log in to the server IP address. I've got my admin user ID. Go ahead and log in. Okay, to select our beginning directories, we can use this drop-down menu on the left. And on the right-hand side, it should drop us right into our admin user account area on the server. So I'm going to highlight these. These are all listed in the downloads section of the website. I'm going to just drag them across and drop them here. I'm going to pause this while this takes place because this usually takes a while. So our files have transferred over successfully. I'll head back to our split screen here. I'm just going to do an ls, make sure they're all where they should be, and they're all there. That's great. We're going to move these now into the install directory that I like to create. So again, the command is preset for you. We'll verify that they went where we thought they went. And we'll move the pin file into its own special location. And we will verify that it went where we thought it went. Everything's looking good. And we will do another reboot. And we're back from our reboot and ready to begin installing CUDA. First, let's install the deb package. Now let's go ahead and install the CUDA repository public GPG key. Let's run update again. And let's install CUDA. Now we need to do another reboot. Back from our reboot, I have logged in with my admin user account. Now let's install our NVIDIA CUDA Toolkit. And there's our toolkit installed. Now we're going to modify our path variable. And modify our library path. Going to reload our bash RC. Now we're going to install our CUDA install samples. Done. Let's double check our NVCC version. And we were expecting 11 and we got 11. Let's verify our NVIDIA driver install. It's showing both the P40 and my other graphics card in here. The P40 is the one you want to be paying attention to, obviously. View our installed NVIDIA packages. Looking good. Verify our CUDA capable devices. I'm going to zip back up here to our 0 device. Scroll up here. And our P40's here and all the information about it. Great. Next, we're going to verify system and CUDA capable device are able to communicate correctly. So this will throw some communication between the two. Looking good. You can see it was talking to device 0, which was our Tesla. And this does the host memory to CUDA device and then CUDA device back to home memory test. Test passed. And that's it for our CUDA RPM install. I'm going to stop the video at this point. I'll restart it in a second and we'll do our cuDNN install. We are logged in as the admin user and we are about to begin the cuDNN install. First, let's double check the media installs folder to verify our cuDNN files are present, which they are. These next 3 installs you see on the page, they take about 1.5 minutes a piece and there's very little output to the screen. So I'm going to run them one after the other and I'm going to restart the video after they have finished installing. So there's all 3 packages installed. Let's change directory to the MNIST directory. Let's compile the MNIST example. And let's run our example. Test passed, install finished. Don't go yet. If your server handled what we just threw at it, it can likely handle this. The EGX stack. I'll put a link in the description. I'm going to build this stack on my next video, except I'm going to add a little twist. I'm going to build it on top of a VM. I'll be using the same server and the same P40 I did in this lab. If you've already climbed that mountain, and you know when you pull up your VM, and you pull up this view, it's a sight to behold. And that's a wrap. If you got questions, check the description area, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.